Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's video we're going to share some new and exciting information with you about a new product that we've been working on. It's kind of a spin-off of an old product, and it's taking our most popular speaker, the XLS Encore, which we've sold over 3,000 pairs of those speakers, and we took that and we hot rodded the crap out of it and had a lot of fun with it and turned it into a really serious product. So I'm going to share with you that process, kind of how we go through that, and answer a bunch of questions, hopefully. And I have people sometimes watching our videos where I've taken some company's product and gone through and measured and tested it, and I'm seeing stuff that's wrong with it, to be honest with you, problems and issues, and I'll go in and correct those and balance out the response, fix phase issues, fix driver breakup issues, all that, blah, blah, blah. And I'll have people say, yeah, why don't you work on some of your own products? Because maybe I'd just pop the bubble of that they had of their favorite whatever that was not exactly built as at a high level as they may have thought it was. But I do spend a lot of time, a lot more time than you think, with trying to make each and every one of our products even better. So I'm always thinking, that to me, that's the challenge. I'm not money motivated. I'm not driven by sales. It's how can I make that even better? It's like I'm always thinking along those lines. And with some of the feedback that I've got with Ron Bernay in our development of those models using the LGK drivers, using a driver on the backside, you've heard us talk about the Ali and Maddie models. Adding that backside driver really added a dimension to the sound. It made it sound like an open baffle speaker. It made it sound like as if things were within the room and not just playing at you from the speaker. And I thought, I bet I could take our X Series models and add a rear firing tweeter to those and get a little of that same openness in the way it sounds. Get a little more of that spaciousness that we're getting out of Ali and Maddie. And so I worked to have a new tweeter made, the little D27. It's basically a variation of our same tweeter that we're using that we just love. It's a great little dome tweeter. And I said, guys, make me a version of that with a Neo motor. Little small neodymium motor on it and a little air chamber behind it. Make me one like that. And a small faceplate because the motor structure is a lot smaller. And it turned out great. It actually measures about as well as this one. Plays down really low. And I'm probably going to do some more cool things with this little tweeter and matching it with some little woofers or whatnot. But it was perfect for a rear tweeter. It's small and it could fit on the back of the cabinet. And as you can see, there's one on the back of this cabinet. And we 3D printed some little plates and stuff to where it would just set on the cabinet and to try and get a feel for what level does it need to play and what type of filter does it need and how does it blend with the tweeter on the front and can we parallel it to it and what adjustments do we need to make. And there's a lot that goes into adding a rear tweeter, but we came out with something that worked really well. And I said, okay, if we're gonna do this, let's put it on the Encore, which is what we were testing it on, and let's hot rod everything about it, like every aspect of the speaker. And so we 3D printed front baffles, and we printed the baffles so that they're swept away, and we tried them in different curves and things until we came up with a shape that had the best response. And curving those sides back tends to take away the surface reflections, and it reflects them more out into the room and not at you from the speaker. So it has a more transparent sound to it. It's less localized to the speaker and more dimensional within the room. And so once we figured out exactly which baffle shape worked the best, then we sent that 3D printed baffle to the manufacturer that we use, and we had them build the whole cabinet with the tweeter in the back, and we had them do several variations. We had them make some, first we had them just make it out of MDF, and we tested it. then we had to figure out how do we make it look cool. So this is a carbon fiber wrap that looks really cool, and it's really inexpensive to do because they're wrapping it over MDF. The other thing they did, and I wanted something like this, I wanted some done in hardwood. Now, I don't like hardwood as a material because hardwood tends to ring. But when you make it this thick, this is really thick, it tends to not ring. And it tends to become just a frame that's supporting the drivers and not a panel that tends to resonate. So imagine we're going to have all these boxes done in this flat black, but you're going to have some options of carbon fiber front, the maple front, the walnut front, again, walnut on black, or the red colored, which is really a stained walnut, and to give it that reddish look. And I love the look of all of those baffles. So the hardwood baffles are a little more expensive, obviously. Hardwood is expensive. So expect a little bit of an upcharge for the hardwood. But once we had a pair of them here to work with, and the measurements looked good, then I revisited the crossover and went in and said, okay, what can we do with the crossover? And we've had tons of these out there. Like I said, over 3,000 pairs of these out there. Tweeters never really fail on these things. They're really robust, low FS, high sensitivity. So if we bring the sensitivity down to the woofer, we can cross these pretty low. And we've done some tests crossing them really low, and I've used them at 1,500 hertz or less and some other applications. So this was one of those deals where it's like, maybe I can push it a little bit lower and see what it can do. And because I changed the surface reflection, it changed the roll-off of the tweeter. Anytime you put a driver in a baffle, the response of that driver is what it is in that baffle. And if you put it in a different baffle, or if you change the offset or you move it to the outside, it completely changes the response of that driver, because it's always going to have ranges in the lower frequency range where those wrap around, they reflect off of the front baffle and come forward. And so it changes the response. And with this, it changed it in a really nice way where it just rolled off real smooth and easy instead of having any kind of knee or disruption. It was, okay, I can use less parts on this now. I can use a lower order filter, and I can allow it to roll off deeper, and let's see what that does. So more testing and more listening, and in the end, settled on something that I'm really, really happy with. So let's do a little comparison. Let's compare this, what we're calling the Encore Extreme, to the original XLS Encore that's been around for a lot of years. It's only fair that I compare this to the original version. It's not fair to compare this to all the other speakers out there, because it's just not fair. Man, this thing measures great. All the parts are great. The drivers are great. It's like, it sets a new benchmark. But let's look at it compared to the XLS Encore. Now, looking at these measurements, keep in mind I'm gating this at 1 meter. So what we're seeing below 400 hertz or so is based on that gated time window. If I were to get a little further back or change the gating, it would actually be flat across the bottom. But the way I'm doing it, I'm not really looking at what's going on at the bottom. I'm looking at the crossover point, and I'm gating it at a 1 watt, 1 meter industry standard. So there's a little of this going on at the bottom that's not really there. And if you look at a room response, it's just flat across there. So keep that in mind. It's still, even with that little whoop-de-doo down there, in the vocal, it's still plus or minus about a dB and a quarter to a dB all the way across. So it's within 2 dB range from end to end. So let's look at the original XLS Encore and then the new Encore Extreme. You can see they're similar, in the way that they have that same flat response. And on this one, I noticed it was really flat at the top of the cabinet, like measuring it right here. Instead of at the tweeter, just measuring it here, it made this frequency response, which is flat as a pancake. Like, wow, that's accurate. But here's the cool part. Let's look at the crossover of the original XLS Encore, and you can see it crosses about 1,800 hertz, and the drivers roll into each other with a second order filter, and they nice and smooth. Like, man, that looks really good. But looking at the Encore Extreme, you can see a little different roll-off. That tweeter's allowed to get out there a little further. It's crossing not much lower. It's crossing around 1600 hertz or so, but the roll-off is different. It's actually allowed to play down quite a bit lower. And what that did to the response as far as the way what we're hearing is it brought more speed and resolution to the whole package. In other words, the tweeter is handling more of those low frequency ranges than the woofer. The woofer is slower, heavier, it's not as fast. Tweeter is more accurate, it's just faster, it's higher resolution. There's not as much moving mass there. It settles really fast, it's really clean, and it just brought another level of clarity down into that range. You'll also notice in this measurement, you'll notice that there's another measurement of the tweeter that's on the back. And what I did was I just spun this thing around, and I took at the same level, I took the measurement of the speaker playing with it turned around backwards. So now we're primarily hearing just the tweeter on the back, and that's that response that you see at the top there. And so I was looking at that. I'm looking at the impedance and how it's affecting the impedance. I'm looking at, which resistors I use in line with it. Do I do a one in shunt, just one in line? So I'm watching the impedance and I'm watching the levels, and I'm remembering the listening test that we made. Like, how loud did this need to be compared to the front tweeter in order for it to sound balanced? Like, it didn't draw attention to itself. You didn't hear a rear tweeter. You just heard this big ambience and this big openness. Like, at what level did it need to be for it to blend perfectly and seamlessly with it? And that's what we're seeing on this. That's the output of the rear tweeter. And guys, man, it really, really changes how it sounds, especially with all the other upgrades too. We're using all high-end parts, and I'm putting a harp device inside. Plus, the wire is treated from Shinyata Research with their K-PIP treatment process. So treated wire, harp device, rear firing tweeter, minimized diffraction around the tweeter at the front. I mean, there's a lot of little things that added up to not little things anymore. I had a customer here the other day wanted to hear these, and then we swapped back to the original Encores and then back to these again, and it was so obvious. The Encores, again, one of our most popular speakers, a speaker known for imaging and soundstage layering. It's really, really good in that area, and people always talk about how much better it sounds imaging-wise than whatever else they had before. Even Jay, when he reviewed it at Jay Yagi's channel, he loved his little $9,500 Sonus Faber speakers and said they image really well, but the XLS Encores image really, really well. It's like that's where they really excelled. Suddenly, even though they're that good, they just got clobbered by this version. Like, this just made the Soundstage go boundaryless, and depth and placement and focus of image and everything was just, it's over the top. It's really, really over the top. So a lot of little things all working towards that direction, all working towards better imaging and soundstage layering, image focus, depth of soundstage, all of those things really added up, and it's overwhelming. The customer that heard it said there's no comparison. Like, the new Encore Extreme is just at a whole nother level. And I mean, he's right, and I'm really happy with it. Let's look at the rest of the measurements, because remember, the old Encore measured really well, and with the acoustic centers so close together and crossing at a low crossover point, the vertical off-axis looked fantastic and lots better than most speakers. Still looks fantastic. And the horizontal off-axis, even a little better still. Let's look at the original Encore horizontal off-axis and then the new Encore Extreme horizontal off-axis. And you can see there's a little more consistency there. Especially just as you start moving off-axis, the response hardly changes. Really smooth all the way out there. Looking at the vertical off-axis, again, the original Encore. Let's look at those measurements. It was fantastic the way it was. Now, the XLS Encore Extreme, or the Encore Extreme, again, as you move up vertically, you're hardly seeing any change in the response. So it maintains a room response all over the room that's real consistent. You can move in any direction, up, down, left, right, and it still maintains this big sound field. You don't have to be just sitting right in the middle for it to get any kind of image focus. Here's the biggie. The spectral decay. The spectral decay, let's look at the before and after, and they're both phenomenal. I mean, that was one of the areas where this speaker excels above most all of the others. There's not much stored energy to these little woofers. They've got good internal damping. They play and they stop. You know, the moving mass is really lightweight. And we're giving up some low-end extension with this woofer in order to have a lighter moving mass that's cleaner and faster and has better vocals. We feel like, look, if you want below 50 hertz, add one of our servo subs. You know, we're willing to give that up in order to gain things in other areas. And to me, it's a great compromise. And everything kind of is a compromise, especially when you go to a stand-mounted speaker. Everything's a compromise. We're giving up some low-end extension. There's stand-mounted speakers out there that play lower. But you're going to be hard-pressed to find any stand-mounted speaker that does what these do as far as imaging and size of the imaging and stuff. Spectral decay is stupid clean. They play and they stop. That is going to tell you more about how a speaker sounds than anything else. Lastly, let's look at the impedance curves. The impedance was real balanced on the original XLS Encore. Simple filter design, and you see a little rise in the middle there where the crossover is creating more resistance down low and up high. So you see a little rise there in the middle, and it dropped down to 6.8 ohms at the minimum impedance dip. What I did with the Encore Extreme is said, okay, we're pulling out all the stops. You know, we want to try and take this as far as we can in every aspect. So I put an impedance trap on it. So the impedance trap is pulling that down, getting rid of that rise, and it's making the impedance really flat all the way across. Plus, with the added tweeter up top, that's bringing the impedance down up top too. So now the impedance is within just 2 or 3 ohms all the way across. So that's really critical in the way amplifiers see this load. It sees it as more of a consistent load. And what happens is, and the result of that is, typically the imaging is better on a speaker that has a nice balanced impedance load than if the amp is having to see these big changes in impedance. It tends to cause shift in the electrical phase, whereas with this, there's no big shifts electrically in the phase, so it stays real constant. So the amp is seeing this even load all the way across. So just another area that we took things up another notch. And it's still, the impedance only dips to 6.3 ohms, so it's still right in that same range. But boy, is it nice and flat. Oh man, it looks good. This thing just looks good in every aspect and really tops the scales. I'm going to go on a limb here and say, you can't find a stand-mounted speaker, maybe almost at any price point, that images and has soundstage layering and placement within the soundstage as good as this speaker. It's that good. And at the price point we're going to offer it at $2,500, I guarantee you there's not a speaker out there you can find that sounds as good as this for $2,500. Granted, you can step up to the little Ali and Maddie models, which are a little more expensive, and you're going to get cleaner vocal region than what even this woofer can do. And it also has that big soundstage and stuff. And yeah, it has some advantages, but they're not at $2,500. These, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to set the bar and a new benchmark for speakers at the $2,500 range that nothing else is even going to touch. Not even close. I mean, this is loaded with the best of everything. Sonic caps, big air core inductors from US Cools, you know, treated wire, tube connectors, everything. And when you hear it, you're going to know it. You're going to listen to it and think, oh my goodness, he has done something really special. I did. I can't wait for everybody to get to hear these. And I'm going to send these out to any reviewer out there that has a real listening room that can pull these out 3 feet or more in the room. You're going to have to. This is a requirement for this. This speaker, because of the rear-mounted tweeter, has to be 3 feet or more out into the room. Because that front wall is going to have a reflection from this energy from this rear tweeter. And if you get it a foot off the wall, it's not going to sound right. That reflection is going to be too short of a time delayed window, and it's going to smear and it's going to cause some cancellation. But you get it 3 feet or more out, and things are going to open up like crazy. So it's specific to applications versus the regular XLS Encore. You can stick it on a shelf. You could plug the port and stick it on a shelf. You can stick it in an entertainment system. You could put it a foot off the wall. You can put it out in your garage on a shelf. You can pull it way out into the room and you can get great imaging. I mean, it's a versatile speaker. This version just lost some of that versatility, but what it gained is over the top. So the hardwood front baffles are going to be a little bit more expensive. So if you click on those options, you're going to pay a little bit more for this look. But the overall performance is going to be exactly the same. And this one, at $2,500, I guarantee you, it's going to kick some butt. So get ready for those to be released. It's going to be, I want to say it's going to be a month, almost a month before the cabinet run is complete, maybe 3 weeks from now from when this launches. And then it'll be a month on the water. So it's going to be the end of the year when we start shipping these things. We start shipping them out. And the crossovers that we're building out for these, I'm putting them on a really high quality circuit board that has really thick copper traces on it. So we'll be able to mass produce that crossover really quickly, install it, and speed up the assembly process a little bit. That's also part of the key in getting that price point down, because some of this stuff adds cost. We added a really high-end tweeter to the back. We're adding a harp device. Man, that stuff really starts adding up. But well worth it. I guarantee you it's going to set the bar. So hang on. Don't ask me when it's coming. I've just given you an update. You know, end of the year, and probably first part of 2026, we'll have these on the site where you can just click on these things and order them. So it's all coming together. Hang in there and put this on your wish list, and you will not be disappointed. And I'll see you guys in the next video.